In the past few months, I've seen multiple people frustrated with the alleged lack of support ATLUS has been giving the Switch 2, versus the incredibly strong support given by Japanese companies like Square Enix and Capcom, to the point where multiple upcoming games are launched and are launching at the same time as on other platforms. Because of that, to a lot of people, it seems bizarre that ATLUS doesn't do the same thing. Persona 4 Revival and Persona 6 have been announced for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, yet a Switch 2 version eludes us. So why is it that ATLUS is unable to release their biggest titles day and date like these other companies?
That's a replica! No! It's nothing of the sort!
So remember when Persona 3 Reload Switch 2 demo came out and it was running about 30 FPS? And then the game came out, and about 2 months later they got a patch that let it run at 60 FPS in docked mode. Well, I think ATLUS wants to try to get that as the baseline for the launch of Persona 4 Revival on Switch 2. Persona 4 Revival looks to be potentially more intensive on the visual end than Persona 3 Reload, and that means they might need to look deeper into how to optimize the game for the Switch 2. On top of that, there is no lower specs version of Revival. What I mean by this is that the game is releasing for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, which are all, technically speaking, higher-end platforms. Now you have to optimize that game for a new console that has lower specs, which is harder to do. There are more limitations overall because of lower power, and that means that it's going to take more time and effort to get the game to run better. And it's not like there are no ATLUS titles announced for the platform. Like I said, Persona 3 Reload came out last year, and Metaphor ReFantazio is on its way, just announced in the most recent Nintendo Direct, which was only about a month and a half ago, or 2 months ago by the time this video comes out. And that's coming out in a handful of months. In my opinion, Metaphor is a game highly worth checking out. It's really incredible. But to get back to the point, it's not like ATLUS completely ignored the Switch 2. They're putting their games out on it, it's just taking time. They just have a backlog of games they have to put out on the system first. And to be blunt about this, you can say what you will, but ATLUS has never been fast with anything. If you want proof, look at Persona 6 and look at Persona 5's release date. Granted, Persona 6 has been in the works for about 7 years, not almost 10, but my point remains. It took an incredibly long effort by both Sega and fans to get ATLUS to realize they have customers on another platform. What started with Persona 5's RPCS3 incident, the PS3 emulator on PC, led to a port of Catherine to PC, and then eventually a leap of faith, as they would probably call it, with Persona 4 Golden's release on PC in 2020, and that overwhelming success led to them porting versions of Persona 3, 4, and 5 to all modern platforms in 2022 and 2023. My point is that it took a very long time for ATLUS to even consider multi-platform, and a lot of it is because of this support and effort from fans and Sega. But yeah, you can call it slow, you can call it out of touch, a lame excuse if you want, but it's just how ATLUS operates. They're just not the fastest people in the world when it comes to making these decisions that we, as a collective, see as good decisions, but from their business perspective are potentially bad ideas because they might lose money, whatever it might be. Long story short, ATLUS is just slow. They don't really like to rush things. And when they do rush things, it's probably because they're way over deadline or over budget, and you get things like Soul Hackers 2, which I personally don't think is that good.
It is still hypothetical at this point, but I don't want to rule it out.
And I feel like while the overall argument is well-intentioned, I think it's a little bit of a poor comparison. Persona, and particularly Persona 5, has done incredibly well. Potentially even better than recent Final Fantasy games. Right now, I'd say that P5 is the FF7 of Persona titles, but most of ATLUS's other titles are not nearly selling as well. They're selling okay sometimes, but they're not that well received compared to Persona 5. Metaphor might be the oddball out, with it being the fastest selling ATLUS title on release, but SMT5, Soul Hackers 2, Raido Kuzunoha, Etrian Odyssey, and many of their other IPs just do not have the same legs or even baseline pull that Persona has. Atlus's legacy is a long one, but their success has always been kind of questionable. The Persona series was the main thing that I would say is successful and well known, even if you don't know who Atlus is. Square Enix and Capcom may have suffered over the years, but their overall output was often met with financial success. Capcom has multiple IPs that are and have been prosperous for decades, from Street Fighter to Monster Hunter to Resident Evil. There's a reason they did so well in the past and are doing well now, even with that dark age of Capcom in the 2010s. Square Enix also possesses multiple franchises that have sold pretty well, including Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, and Dragon Quest. What I'm trying to say here is that these companies have much more money and influence compared to Atlus. While Persona 5 is a genre-defining game and a game that has influenced so many games down the line, it is one game. It is one game that has sold well, whereas Capcom's games are selling the same amount that Persona 5 has sold in 10 years in the first half year of its release. The value that Square Enix and Capcom possess for many different types of people means they also have a lot more resources to get developers on creating Switch 2 versions of those games. Atlus has many talented developers, but time, money, and other resources are still limitations to getting these games on the Switch 2, especially since it's new hardware. Developers are still people, and game development is still a job. Even if they outsource the work, that's more money, which is still, again, limited to Atlus's disposal. There are just a lot of different factors that really, to me, just cannot be boiled down to Atlus doesn't like money, and Atlus doesn't know what they're doing. Because, if I'm honest with you, Atlus really likes money, and they put Persona 5 in everything. If someone asks for a P5 license, it seems like they just give it out for whatever the cost might be. And they're probably making a pretty good amount of money just on licensing Persona 5 out to other IPs.
Although it's not like this is the last time we'll see one another.
It really is a matter of when, not if, Persona 4 Revival and probably Persona 6 come to Switch 2. With the incredibly busy year ahead of us, sporting multiple major JRPG releases, it's not like there won't be something to play, but it means that Atlus will also have to time their releases strategically. The beginning of the year is already pretty crowded, so assuming P4R is going to eventually come to Switch 2, means finding a good time to launch it during the middle or even the end of the year. I think P4R is honestly less of a concern compared to P6. I think there is more of a possibility that they get the ball rolling on a Persona 6 port for release, rather than try to get P4R out on Switch 2 first, if they're in that kind of range of not knowing which one is going to come first. I just think it'll be a lot harder to avoid spoilers for P6, and I think people are generally, and I think there's potential that people will be more excited for Persona 6 than Persona 4 Revival. Not me personally, but anyways, I don't think there's a lot of reason to worry whether the games will come to Switch 2. I just think it's gonna take time. A lot of companies are pushing really hard for their games to launch day and date for the new console, and it just seems like Atlus is not currently capable of getting that output, and that just kind of happens. And maybe they see value in launching their game later on Switch 2 because they have gotten significant returns otherwise. I don't think we have sales data that splits it between consoles right now, so we don't really know. Whether that's good or bad is really up for debate, but the data we have versus what data Sega and Atlus have is different. And you can let me know what you think of the lack or the slow Switch 2 ports in the comments below. As always, you can leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel for more things Persona, Atlus, and JRPG related. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.